It was a rainy Thursday evening when my life took a turn I never anticipated. I had just returned from a grueling day at work, dripping wet from the storm that caught me halfway home. As I hung my soaked coat by the door and slipped off my shoes, my phone buzzed with a notification. It was a message from my sister, Melanie. Melanie and I had always been close growing up, but over the years, our lives had drifted apart. She was the adventurous one, the free spirit, always chasing something new and exciting. I, on the other hand, had built a quiet, stable life in our small hometown. "Can you take care of Nathan for a while? I'll explain everything later." That was all the message said. No context, no explanation, just a simple request. Nathan was her 8-year-old son, a bright, sweet kid who I'd only seen sporadically over the last few years. Before I could even reply, my doorbell rang. When I opened the door, there they were, Melanie, standing under an umbrella with a suitcase in one hand and Nathan holding her other hand tightly. His wide, curious eyes met mine, and he gave me a small smile. "Hi, Auntie Ellie," he said softly. "What's going on, Mel?" I asked, my voice a mix of concern and confusion. "I don't have time to explain," she said hurriedly. "I'll call you. Please, just take care of him. It's only for a little while." Before I could protest, she kissed Nathan on the forehead, handed me the suitcase, and disappeared into the stormy night. The first few days with Nathan were a whirlwind. He was well-behaved and polite, but it was clear he was confused and upset. I tried calling Melanie, but my calls went straight to voicemail. I sent texts, emails, even messages through social media, but there was no response. Nathan and I settled into an awkward routine. I'd take him to school in the morning, go to work, and pick him up in the evening. We'd eat dinner together, and then he'd retreat to the guest room where I'd set up his things. He rarely talked about his mom or why she had left him with me. One evening, as we were eating spaghetti at the kitchen table, he finally spoke up. "Aunt Ellie, do you know where Mommy went?" he asked, his voice tinged with worry. I hesitated, not wanting to lie, but also not wanting to burden him with my own fears. "I'm not sure, Nathan, but I'm sure she'll call soon to let us know." He nodded, but the sadness in his eyes was unmistakable. A week after Melanie's disappearance, I received a letter in the mail. It had no return address, but the handwriting was unmistakably hers. My hands trembled as I opened it. "Dear Ellie, I know you're probably angry and confused. I'm sorry for putting this on you, but I had no other choice. Nathan is better off with you right now. I've made some mistakes, and I need time to fix them. Please take care of him for me. I'll be in touch when I can. Love, Melanie." The letter provided no real answers, only more questions. What kind of mistakes had she made? Why couldn't she take Nathan with her? As the weeks turned into months, Nathan and I slowly adapted to our new reality. I learned how to help him with his homework, navigate his picky eating habits, and deal with his occasional temper tantrums. He started opening up to me, sharing stories about school and his favorite video games. Despite the circumstances, a bond was forming between us. One afternoon, as I was tidying up the house, I stumbled upon something in Nathan's suitcase. It was a small notebook, filled with drawings and short entries written in his childlike scrawl. Most of it was innocent enough, doodles of superheroes, notes about his friends, but one entry caught my eye. "Mommy and the scary man argued again. He said we have to go away." Mommy cried. "I don't like him." A chill ran down my spine. Who was the scary man? And what did he have to do with Melanie's sudden disappearance? I realized I needed to dig deeper to find out what was really going on. The notebook entry haunted me. That night, after putting Nathan to bed, I sat in my living room with a cup of tea, turning the pages over in my mind. Melanie had always been fiercely independent, but she had never been reckless, at least not when it came to Nathan. This was something different, something dangerous. The next day, I decided to reach out to Melanie's best friend, Clara. If anyone knew what was going on, it would be her. Clara and Melanie had been inseparable since college, and although I hadn't seen her in years, I still had her number. "Ellie," Clara said when I called, her voice cautious. "I was wondering when you'd reach out. You know something, don't you?" I pressed. She sighed heavily. I'm not sure how much I can say. Melanie didn't want you to be involved. Well, I'm already involved, I snapped. Nathan is living with me, and Melanie is gone. I need to know what's happening. After a long pause, Clara relented. There's a man. His name is Daniel. Melanie got involved with him a few months ago. At first, everything seemed fine, but then he started controlling her. Threatening her. Controlling her how? I asked, my heart pounding. Financially, emotionally, physically. She wanted to leave him, but he wouldn't let her. She's been planning to get away for weeks, Ellie. That's all I know. The pieces were starting to come together, but they painted a grim picture. If Daniel was as dangerous as Clara suggested, then Melanie's disappearance wasn't just an escape. It was a matter of survival. The revelation about Daniel made me more protective of Nathan than ever. I started noticing things I hadn't before. A car parked too long outside my house, a man at the grocery store who seemed to linger near us. It could have been paranoia, but I couldn't take any chances. I installed new locks on the doors and signed Nathan up for self-defense classes. I also contacted the local police to report Melanie as a missing person, though without much concrete evidence, they couldn't do much. One evening, as Nathan and I were playing a board game, he looked up at me and asked, "Aunt Ellie, is Mommy in trouble?" I hesitated, then said, "She's trying to keep us safe, Nathan. And I'm going to do everything I can to make sure we're okay." He nodded solemnly, seeming to accept my answer. But the worry in his eyes hadn't disappeared. Neither had mine. A week after my conversation with Clara, the uneasy feeling of being watched became undeniable. Late one evening, as I closed the curtains in the living room, headlights flashed briefly through the window. A black sedan idled at the end of the street before speeding off. My stomach churned with anxiety. The next day, I received an anonymous note slipped under my door. The message was typed, and its chilling simplicity sent shivers down my spine. "Stay out of this. You don't know what you're dealing with." I immediately called the police, but they couldn't do much without evidence. It was clear, however, that Daniel or someone connected to him knew where Nathan and I were. That night, I sat Nathan down. "We need to be extra careful from now on, okay? If anything feels strange, or you see someone watching you, you tell me right away." Nathan nodded, his small face serious. "Like a spy mission?" "Exactly like a spy mission," I said, trying to hide my fear with a smile. Desperate for help, I reached out to my old college friend, Sam, who had connections in private security. Sam was pragmatic and resourceful, the kind of person you'd want in a crisis. "I'll look into this Daniel guy," Sam promised. "But you need to keep a low profile. Don't trust anyone you don't know." In the meantime, Sam provided me with a few essentials: a personal alarm for Nathan, a new security system for the house, and a burner phone in case my primary phone was compromised. The situation felt surreal, like I was living in a crime drama. A month after Melanie disappeared, I received an email from an unfamiliar address. The subject line read, "For Ellie." My heart raced as I opened it. The message was brief, but unmistakably from Melanie. "Ellie, I can't explain everything, but Nathan is safest with you. Daniel is dangerous. Don't try to find me. It will only put you both in more danger. Trust no one but Clara. I'll reach out when it's safe." Attached to the email was a photograph of Melanie and Nathan at a park. She looked tired but determined. There was also a second attachment, a scanned document listing a series of bank transfers with Daniel's name on them. It looked like evidence of extortion or embezzlement. This wasn't just about Melanie escaping an abusive relationship. She had stumbled into something much larger. I stared at the screen, my fingers trembling over the mouse as I hovered over the attachments. Melanie's warning echoed in my mind, "Trust no one but Clara." But I wasn't sure who Clara was. My pulse quickened, and the weight of the situation pressed heavily on my chest. I clicked open the photograph first. Nathan was smiling in the picture, oblivious to the darkness surrounding his mother's message. Melanie's eyes were hollow, her smile strained, but she was still holding on to some semblance of hope. That small piece of her seemed to whisper through the pixels of the photo. She was alive. But what did she mean about Daniel being dangerous? Was he involved in whatever she had stumbled into? I quickly opened the second attachment, the list of bank transfers. My eyes scanned the document carefully. The transactions were large, spanning several months, and all seemed to trace back to Daniel's name. Some of the amounts were shockingly high. There was no way this was legal. I opened a new tab on my browser and started searching for any background on Daniel. He was a well-known figure in the city, but not for anything good. There were whispers of illegal dealings, money laundering, fraud, and even more sinister activities, but nothing solid, nothing to prove it. The connections were all rumors, but now, seeing these transactions with my own eyes, the rumors were starting to feel like the truth. I rubbed my temples, trying to process everything. The email made it clear that Melanie was in deeper than I ever realized. She was mixed up with a dangerous network, and she was trying to protect Nathan, protect us from it. But where was she now? Why did she mention Clara? Could she really be trusted? Suddenly, the phone on my desk buzzed, breaking my concentration. I hesitated before answering. It could be a call from a number I didn't recognize, or worse, from Daniel himself. I picked up. "Ellie," a voice whispered on the other end. "You need to come to me. It's Clara. I know what you found, and you're running out of time." I froze, the hairs on the back of my neck standing up. The voice on the other end was calm but urgent, a quiet intensity that left no room for doubt. "Clara?" I whispered, my voice shaky. "Yes. Melanie sent me. I'm the only one you can trust right now. I know what Daniel is capable of, and I know where Melanie is. But you have to come to me. It's the only way to keep Nathan safe." My mind raced, torn between fear and the desperation to find Melanie and protect her son. I glanced at the photograph again, the small, fragile thread of hope that she was alive and waiting for me to save her. "I'll come," I said, my voice firmer now. "But you have to tell me where. I need to know how to find you." A long pause, then Clara's voice, low and serious. "I'll send you an address. Don't tell anyone, not even Nathan. Time is running out. You'll be in danger just by stepping outside your door, but it's the only way to get to Melanie." The line went dead before I could say another word. I quickly grabbed my coat, my heart pounding in my chest as I looked at Nathan, who was sitting quietly in the other room, oblivious to the storm brewing. I couldn't risk him finding out. He was just a child, and he deserved a life free from fear. A few moments later, my phone buzzed with a message, an address. It was in a part of the city I didn't recognize, an abandoned building in a rundown district. My gut told me this wasn't just about saving Melanie anymore. It was about stopping something much darker. I took a deep breath, steeling myself. I had no choice but to go. As I stepped out the door, I felt the weight of Melanie's message in my hands, the photograph of her and Nathan a constant reminder of what was at stake. I didn't know what would happen next, but one thing was certain. Whatever I uncovered tonight would change everything. I would never be the same again. And neither would Nathan. But I was going to find her. And I was going to bring her home.